Hi, welcome back. I'm just going to be going over the What is Religion PowerPoint, just to explain the basics of what is religious studies, what is religion, what are the different parts, and then as we go through the world religions, you will notice that many of the components that I describe here are contained within those religions. Not all of them, but some of them. So like Hinduism and Buddhism are very different from, say, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Okay? So, what is religion? Well, the first thing is when we approach these religions, I'm kind of using it or approaching it from the perspective of the phenomenological approach to the study of religion and also the historical approach to the study of religion. Okay, this means that you understand the religion according to the viewpoint of the believer. So, one thing that you have to also place yourself into the mind frame of is of the believer, or of kind of a non-participatory observer type of thing, right? So a combination of historical, meaning I'm just looking at the facts and figures, and also from the perspective of the believer, like, well, how does the Hindu believe or understand this religion? Okay, the reason why I want to do that is because many of you are Christian, or many of you are raised in other traditions, and you have been taught for years that that is the way. That's the only religion. This is the only way that you approach religious studies or a religion. So try to separate your own value judgments or your own faith structure from this class. This is an academic class that evaluates different world religions. And just because someone told you that Jesus Christ is God doesn't mean that Jesus Christ is God for Hindus or Buddhists or Confucianists or Jews or Muslims. See what I mean? Right? So you've got to kind of take your faith structure and put it over there, and then approach this class from the viewpoint of the believer or from the viewpoint of the historian. Okay? All right, so towards the definition of religion. So religion is a notion of sacred reality made manifest in human experience in such a way to produce long-lasting ways of thinking, feeling, and acting with respect to problems of ordering and understanding existence. So what a religion is a notion of sacred reality, something beyond ourselves, that there's something that we don't understand that is considered sacred or holy. It's made manifest in human experience, meaning it absolutely affects our lives. We shape our lives, we understand our lives in relationship to this notion of sacred reality. In such a way to produce long-lasting ways of thinking, feeling, and acting means not only do we understand the sacred reality as being very important to us as people of faith in this particular religion, but it also affects how we behave, our long-term understanding or our long-term participation in the religion. With respect to problems of ordering and understanding existence, we actually look to religions to make sense of the world as well. So not only do we place importance towards it in terms of how we think or act or feel, but it also makes other things make sense in our kind of global understanding. Okay? Why do we think this is a definition of religion? Because it's connected to everything that we are. It gets connected to how we think, how we feel, how we act, how we, our own individual faith structures, how we participate in society, and also what shapes our morals and our ethics. What do we understand in terms of right or wrong? Religion also is connected with that. So it's basically every part of being human is tied in with being religious. Okay? So what is the function then of this religion? Why? Because some people are not religious. Why are so many people religious? Because we have to deal with things that perhaps we don't understand. Things like death or suffering or other difficulties. So we kind of need religion to come to terms with things that we might not understand. But let's look at all the different components of it, because a definition is certainly not enough, right? So what are then this sacred reality? What is the sacred reality that I am talking about? Well, sacred is something that is other. Now, In religions like Hinduism and Buddhism, they can't even describe what achieving, in Hinduism, Atman Brahman, or in Buddhism, Nirvana is. So their idea of the sacred is actually not knowing what it is exactly, but it's definitely not where you are now. So there's always a sense that it's something to achieve, or something that's over there, or something to worship that's over there. So it's a very beyond the kind of the sense of the other, separate from you, something you don't understand. Beyond the control of the human being, yeah, because we don't understand it. Prominent with respect to our welfare, meaning it's going to make us feel better. It's there, whatever it is, whether it's a God or a union of your soul to the ultimate, it's always there to make us better, right? Feel better at some level. And then properly determinative of various aspects of human existence. And not only is it something other, something we aspire to, something that will make us a better person, but that actually determines how we behave in our human existence as well. Okay, so the key is that it's set apart or it's different. And it's not always a God, okay? Not always a God. In many of the Eastern religions, gods are just masks of something that's much bigger and larger. So try to kind of remove that Western way of thinking from your head. Examples of an other are like the Western ideas of God in the Hebrew Bible, Jesus in Christianity, and Allah, something to be worshipped. Examples of, number 2, in terms of beyond our control, there's a very specific story of Uzzah in 2 Samuel 6 in the Bible, where he trips and falls and kind of like leans his hand against the Ark of the Covenant, which is a box that contains the 10 Commandments, and God punishes him and strikes him down. And they was like, wait, what is that? Beyond our control. It is not for us to understand how God works. Okay? Prominent in human welfare, I would say the Day of Judgment, or Judgment Day, when in Christianity Christ will come again, or from the Quran, when the Day of Judgment or the Apocalypse comes. That's probably pretty significant in terms of human welfare. Are we going to be, sent somewhere? Or are we going to be taken up to heaven, right? So that's pretty important. I think that's something that we need to be concerned about. And then in terms of here in our human existence, the Eastern religions of Hinduism and Buddhism, definitely, and Confucianism definitely, where the way of life, the way you live your life, is actually part of experiencing the sacred. Okay. In Western religions, oftentimes we separate our secular lives, our everyday lives, with our religious lives. And so there's definitely a big split. In Hinduism, Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, the Eastern religions, how you behave in your normal everyday life is actually part of being sacred. So that's kind of the difference. Appearance of the sacred. How does the sacred manifest itself in human experience? Well, there are different types of sacred experiences. Appearances, the prophetic one would be like in Judaism and Islam, where you have prophets, speakers that come and advocate on behalf of God. Sacramental would be like Christianity. Jesus is fully God and fully human, not necessarily prophetic, because he is God. So he embodies the Godhead, or he embodies the sacred in his human being. See what I mean? And then mystical would, of course, be Buddhism and Hinduism, where there is no God. Gods are immaterial, and what is understood as a sacred is inexplicable. You can't really see it, define it, explain it, bottle it, touch it, nothing. You only will experience it when you achieve it. Before then, you have no idea. See, so that's very kind of mystical. There are different sacred persons who are like founders of a religion, and those would be like Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, the Buddha. Sacred objects, things like the Quran, the Bible. In Japanese Zen Buddhism, there is a tea ceremony that is considered sacred as well. So those are tangible things or material items that are considered sacred. Communion, of course, that of course is sacred because it is the body and blood of Christ, right? There are 2 types of sacred time: Linear are in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, where time moves forward and you never repeat it. There's always something in the future that is going to be revealed, or something in the future that is going to be attained, right? So it's very linear. Cyclical are Hinduism and Buddhism, where they have a sense that you are reborn. So things repeat itself, and that samsara, which is your cycle of death and rebirth in Hinduism and Buddhism, you just keep getting reborn. You keep getting recycled until you attain that goal, either in Hinduism or Buddhism. So in a sense, in Hinduism and Buddhism, your life right now, samsara, is your hell, because you just keep getting recycled until you actually get out of this cycle. While in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, there is no cycle of death and rebirth. Once something happens, you move on. Everything is always looking towards the future, okay? And then, of course, there are different types of sacred spaces, like a church, or, Mecca and Medina, which has the Kaaba shrine, a mosque, a Shinto shrine, a Buddhist stupa, sometimes even a special little area in your home where you might set up a little offering, especially in Hinduism. You might have like a sacred space like that. So it isn't necessarily a building. It's any space that you feel closer to God. Ooh, this is so tiny. Let's see. I'm trying to make this a little bit bigger. Hang on. Oh, I cannot. Well, hopefully you'll be able to see it. This is basically, this slide actually talks about the language of the sacred, or how the sacred is transmitted in terms of information. There are two different categories: oral, where stories are told, around the campfire or through generations, and scriptural, which is actually written text. This written text could potentially have been compiled by different people, but eventually they take the written form. And then there's all these different kinds of stories. So I would take a look at the slide for that. How do you express the sacred? That would be through ritual. That would be different types of rituals. They can be religious and non-religious, but within religions itself, there are two types: rites of passages and temporal rites of celebrations. So in terms of, and why do we do these rituals, right? Because we're usually celebrating or commemorating something that we consider sacred or important in the religion. And these rites are usually, especially temporal rites and celebrations, are usually reminders of why those things were important to us. Rites of passage usually are rituals that are associated with transitional moments in your life. So, for example, in the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches, they have the 7 sacraments. Baptism, you didn't exist, now you do, right? Marriage, you were single, now you're married. So those are transitional moments or liminal zones, when you go from one state of being to the other. So the other examples are rituals of initiation or rituals of mourning and death. Temporal rites are seasonal ones, or specific to a particular historical event, or, a practice, or the acting out or dramatizing of a particular thing. So Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas has the birth of Christ. New Year, Rosh Hashanah, that is the kind of beginning of the new year. What is the religious meaning of ritual? Well, there are 4 things: adoration, thanksgiving, petition, and penance. So there's always something that you want to get with a ritual, right? You want to express adoration. You want to say thank you for doing something. You want to say sorry, penance, or you want to get something. I want a baby. I want more money, whatever. So asking for favors. So there's always some sort of like relational aspect to the ritual. There's something that you want to complete with that ritual. And that act, the ritual, is also part of a larger religious system. It can be small, it can be communal. So it can be individual rituals, or it can be community-based rituals, or it can even be like city-based rituals, right? So at any different level. I have 4 more slides in this PowerPoint. I'm going to do that in the next video, which will be shorter than this one. So make sure you click on the second part of this video. Okay.